What makes a quarterback truly great? Is it changing the way the game is played? Or is it changing the outcome when it matters most? One guy was the trigger man for an offense that was ahead of its time. The other was the master of the impossible comeback. This is the story of the gunslinger versus the comeback king, and a battle for legacy. In the history of the NFL, some players are bigger than their stat lines. They become legends, the faces of an entire era. In the late 70s and 80s, two of those titans took the field, and they couldn't have been more different. In one corner, you have Dan Fouts, the bearded field general from San Diego who stood tall in the pocket and orchestrated an aerial assault that blew up the record books. In the other corner, you've got John Elway, the rocket-armed scrambler from Denver, a master of making something out of nothing, whose sheer will could rip a victory from the jaws of defeat. But this isn't just about the numbers. It's a clash of football philosophies. Fouts was a flat-out revolutionary. He and his coach, Don Coryell, didn't just use the forward pass, they made it the entire offense. Elway, on the other hand, was all about resilience. He was the guy who proved that no lead was safe, no clock was too short, and no moment was ever too big for him. One changed the game, the other conquered it. To figure out who was better, we have to start with the worlds they built. To really get what made Dan Fouts special, you have to picture the NFL he joined in 1973. It was a league of 3 yards and a cloud of dust, where offenses were conservative, and the forward pass was treated like a risky last resort. Then along came the San Diego Chargers and coach Don Coryell, who basically looked at the NFL playbook and threw it in the trash. In Dan Fouts, he found the perfect quarterback to bring his vision to life. That vision was Air Coryell, an offensive philosophy that shocked the league. It was an aggressive, deep-throwing attack designed to stretch defenses past their breaking point. Coryell's strategy was simple: go deep, and when that works, go deep again. Fouts, with his lightning-quick release and gutsy pocket presence, was the engine that made it all run. The Chargers had a fleet of receivers, including Hall of Famer Charlie Joyner and the explosive John Jefferson. But the real game-changer was tight end Kellen Winslow, who Fouts and Coryell turned from a blocker into a matchup nightmare. The results were insane. Fouts didn't just break records, he shattered them. When a 3,000-yard season was the gold standard, Fouts made it look like a warm-up. He became just the second QB in history to throw for over 4,000 yards in 1979, then did it again in 1980 and 1981, peaking at a then-record 4,802 yards. For a mind-blowing 6 straight seasons, from 78 to 83, the Chargers led the entire league in passing. Fouts himself led the NFL in passing yards for 4 consecutive years, 1979 to 1982, a record that still stands. He was named NFL MVP for the strike-shortened 1982 season, where he put up an absurd 320.3 passing yards per game. But for all that offensive firepower, there's always the question: where are the rings? Fouts got the Chargers to back-to-back AFC championship games in 1980 and 1981 but lost both times. His playoff record is a middling 3-4. Critics say that's the biggest knock on his career. His defenders will tell you that the Chargers' defenses back then were notoriously bad, often giving up points as fast as Fouts could score them. Still, Fouts authored one of the greatest playoff games ever played. On January 2, 1982, in the brutal Miami Heat, the Chargers and Dolphins played a game so legendary it's now just called the Epic in Miami. After going up 24-0, the Chargers watched Miami storm all the way back. The game turned into an overtime thriller that saw Fouts throw for a playoff record 433 yards. The iconic image is of a battered and exhausted Kellen Winslow being carried off the field by his teammates after catching 13 passes. The Chargers won that day, 41-38, in a game that was Fouts' masterpiece, proof of the heart and brilliance of the gunslinger who changed his position forever. If Dan Fouts was the architect, John Elway was a force of nature. He came into the league in 1983 as maybe the most hyped quarterback prospect ever, a guy with a cannon for an arm and the speed of a running back. While Fouts was a statue in the pocket, Elway was a new kind of threat. He could launch a ball 70 yards off his back foot but was just as dangerous when he took off and ran, turning broken plays into pure magic. For a long stretch of his early career, John Elway pretty much was the entire Denver Broncos offense. He was stuck on teams that didn't have anywhere near the level of firepower Fouts had in San Diego. The weight of the team was on his shoulders, and he delivered time and time again. This pressure forged the defining trait of his legacy, his incredible clutch play. The Hall of Fame credits Elway with 47 game-winning or tying drives in the fourth quarter. 47. When the game was on the line, nobody was better. His defining moment, the one that cemented his legend, is known simply as the drive. Picture it. January 11, 1987, the AFC Championship game in Cleveland. The Broncos are down 20-13 with just over 5 minutes left. And the ball is on their own 2-yard line. 98 yards to go in a deafening stadium. What happened next was a 15-play masterclass in cool. Elway marched the Broncos down the field, converting huge third downs and scrambling for key yardage. With just 37 seconds left, he hit his receiver for the game-tying touchdown. Denver won in overtime. The drive was more than just a sequence of plays. It was pure Elway, unflappable, unstoppable, inevitable. Of course, for years, the knock on Elway was that he couldn't win the big one. He took the Broncos to 3 Super Bowls in the 80s and got blown out in all 3. The narrative was that Elway was a brilliant loser, a guy who could get you to the party but could never be the last one on the dance floor. But then came the end of his career. The Broncos finally built a complete team around him, with Hall of Fame running back Terrell Davis leading the ground game. Elway, older and wiser, evolved. He didn't have to be a one-man show anymore. He became an efficient, veteran leader who picked his moments perfectly. In Super Bowl 32, he led the Broncos to their first-ever championship against the heavily favored Packers. A year later, he did it again, winning Super Bowl MVP in the final game of his career before riding off into the sunset. Those 2 rings didn't just complete his career, they redefined it. They were the ultimate proof that the comeback king was also a champion. So we have the revolutionary passer in Dan Fouts and the ultimate winner in John Elway. 2 very different paths to the Hall of Fame. Before I give my final verdict, I want to hear from you. Who are you taking? Team Fouts, the guy who invented the modern passing game, or Team Elway, the guy who defined what it means to be clutch? Let me know your pick in the comments, and while you're down there, hit that subscribe button, because we're just getting started. So, who gets the crown? The Gun Slinger or the comeback king? This is a tough one. It's a fight between 2 absolute legends, and the right answer really just comes down to how you define better. If you're basing it on who was the more revolutionary and efficient passer, the case for Dan Fouts is rock solid. He was the pilot of an offense that was light years ahead of its time. His passer rating and yards per attempt were consistently higher than Elway's, which tells you he was a more precise quarterback in his system. Fouts threw for 43,040 yards and 254 touchdowns in just 181 games, an insane pace for his era. He literally changed the way football was played. But if your definition of better is about elevating a team, winning when it counts, and grabbing that ultimate prize, then it's got to be John Elway. While Fouts' efficiency was better, Elway's career numbers are bigger. 51,475 passing yards and 300 touchdowns. He played more, he won more, and his playoff record of 14-8 blows Fouts' 3-4 record out of the water. And while Fouts made it to 2 AFC title games, Elway took the Broncos to 5 Super Bowls. And here's the biggest difference maker. For all of Fouts' beautiful stats, his legacy is haunted by the fact he never even reached a Super Bowl. Elway? He dragged the Broncos to 5 of them. He got blown out in his first 3, sure, but just getting those less talented teams there was a minor miracle. Then, he finally broke through and won back-to-back championships to end his career, cementing his legacy as a winner. His career wasn't just about stats, it was about wins. Dan Fouts was a master of his craft, a brilliant QB in the perfect system who put up numbers no one thought was possible. John Elway was a force of nature, a transcendent talent who made you believe that as long as he had the ball, his team had a chance. Fouts changed the game, but Elway conquered it. For the leadership, the legendary clutch moments, and those 2 Super Bowl rings, John Elway's legacy stands just a little bit taller. This whole Fouts versus Elway debate is one of those arguments that makes football history so much fun. You had the artist versus the warrior. One painted masterpieces on the field, and the other carved out wins with nothing but grit and a cannon for an arm. While Elway gets the nod here because of the championships, the story of the NFL can't be told without both of them. Coryell laid the foundation for the pass-heavy league we all watch today, and Elway's comebacks are still the benchmark for what it means to be clutch. But hey, that's just my 2 cents. I want to know what you think. Who had the greater legacy? The guy who changed the game, or the guy who conquered it? Drop your pick in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, do us a favor and hit that like and subscribe button for more deep dives into the greatest to ever do it. And don't forget to click on the playlist above to watch more NFL Hall of Famers. Thanks for watching.